Ladies and gentlemen, today is a really special day. I've got something I want to share with you today that I've wanted to share since the first day I started making videos here. It's time to talk about my favorite technique for out-of-body travel. It's called the Vigil method, and in my opinion, this is the holy grail of out-of-body travel techniques. If you've done a lot of reading on the subject, you may have actually heard of this technique before. It was developed by a mystic who lived in Mexico about 50 years ago, and who was popular at the time with the Gnostic Christian movement. His name was Samael Unweor, and he actually wrote several books on the subject that you might have seen already. This is the first technique that we're going to talk about that requires no change in your ordinary sleep schedule, and so requires very little time out of your day to practice. Let's get right into how it works. Samael called the ordinary waking state the vigil state, as in the word vigilance, because this is the period of the day when you ordinarily stand watch, as it were, inside your own self. You watch your five senses during the day, and you're watchful or vigilant during this time. You give this up, though, when you go to bed. When you lay your body down to rest, your sense perception doesn't just go away. That's part of it. But you also let go of your attention to the five senses. You lose interest in them, and you start to allow your attention to float along with whatever mental stuff is happening at the time. And this means that as soon as your body falls asleep, your awareness drops into a dream state, and you're not aware again until the next morning. Now, I want to tell you what happens when you go to sleep, because there's an entire process that happens after you normally stop paying attention that we're normally unaware of. The first thing is, as soon as you lose touch with the physical sensations, you transition immediately into your etheric body. This is just like the layers of an onion falling away. After a few seconds, the subtle etheric body then separates and floats out of the physical one, and it hovers between a few inches and a few feet above your regular physical body. This is the body, the etheric body, that they talk about being tethered with a silver cord. The silver cord they talk about is just a description of the trail of etheric matter that you could see linking the etheric body and the physical one, if you also happen to be on the etheric plane at the point where these were separated. When you're in the etheric body, then there's a second transition that happens. This is one that we usually miss completely, and this is when we lose touch with the etheric body and move on to the astral plane, or the astral body, and this is where we dream on the astral plane. While you're dreaming at night, both your physical body and your etheric body sleep through the night. Now, this is the magic. This is what I want to talk about, the major secret about being a human being. It's possible for an aware person to watch this entire process happening and take control of the etheric body at the moment where the physical one falls asleep. How do you do it? In the Vigil method, this is described very simply. I'm going to give you Samael's brief description here, and then my comparatively long-winded one, which I will do my best to keep short. Samael said that the best way was to lay down in your bed at night, don't let your mind wander, stay vigilant, and simply watch what is happening as you go to sleep. Don't disconnect mentally from the process, just remain watchful. When you realize that you are slumbering, was the word that he used, get up. Physically get up, without hesitation, and in just the same way that you would ordinarily if you were getting out of your bed any other time. What happens is that if your physical body has already gone to sleep, the body you will get up in will be your etheric double, and you will find yourself on the etheric plane, which is the subtlest level of the physical world. So, one more time, the Vigil method completely through. Go to bed at night as you normally would. Don't let your mind wander. Watch your connection with the physical body. And when you find yourself slumbering, get up just as you would physically. And if you waited long enough, you'll find that you're in the etheric body. Now, I want to talk about this method for a few minutes, and I will try to keep this as to the point as possible. By the way, if you have specific questions, put them below the video, because I'm going to begin doing live events here in the next few weeks. I'm really excited to be started doing a two-way communication. That's really what I'm most interested in, because I think that's really where the ideas are freely passed back and forth with the most efficiency. But for now, we'll talk about this technique. First of all, when you try to do this, your awareness is going to be very difficult to maintain on the edge of sleep. One of the major reasons for this, and something that I'll go into more depth with when we begin to shift this discussion to a more general spiritual dialogue, is that inadvertently we lean on our memory during the day. It's not just our physical senses that we lean on. And we use them to remind us who we are. And when we enter into an altered state, that is to say, anytime we lose touch with our physical body and our physical sensations, this can be when you drink ayahuasca or just simply when you fall asleep, we almost always experience a brief interruption of our memory. And this just completely knocks us off the horse. It sets us up to be in a desire-driven dream environment because that brief forgetting period kills our focus. We literally forget that we're even trying to stay aware. So one of the first things that you're going to notice when you try to use the Vigil method is that you lose self-awareness. You lay down, try to watch the transition from your physical body into your etheric body, and the next thing you know, bang, it's morning, and you've slept through the whole night. We don't really have time here to go into detail about all the ways to fix that, but I want you to know that your self-awareness is what has to be strengthened. This will grow as you practice with these techniques. So use some of the previous techniques that we've talked about in earlier videos if you're still struggling to have your first out-of-body experience, because those techniques are more beginner friendly. And also stay tuned for some of the videos that are going to come up after this one, because we're going to shift gears and talk about both how to use the embedded triggers to improve your chances of becoming aware in the subtler states, as well as general meditation techniques that you can use to raise your level of awareness during the day. The second problem that you're going to run into is knowing when to get up, which means knowing when you're still in the physical body and when you've made the transition over to your etheric body. The simplest way to begin to work this out is just to start watching the process of how you fall asleep at night, because this is the easiest way to see what really happens. Try to stay aware as long as possible and see where you lose control and what sensations accompany that happening. I've talked to some people who found that they were actually naturally pretty good at this, and they found that when they began just focusing on watching the process of falling asleep at night, they were able to see a lot more than they would have imagined. There are a few things, though, that are definite indicators that you've moved away from your etheric body. The first is a sudden dropping sensation. This literally feels like your bed has just dropped out from under you briefly. This happens when you make a quick shift to your etheric body, because your etheric body is not heavily pushing down on the bed. So if you quickly switch into your etheric body, you feel a sudden sensation where there's no sense of bed pushing up on you, and your mind interprets this as a drop. In fact, if you stop to think about it, you've probably had experiences, even recently, where you were on the edge of sleep and felt the dropping sensation and snapped back awake with a jolt. Another dead giveaway is if you find that you begin to see your room through your closed eyelids. Sometimes you'll be laying there, waiting for your body to fall asleep, and you begin to realize that your vision is starting to come back. So if this starts to happen to you, it's a good indicator that it's time to execute your exit technique. Sometimes the process is a little more gradual too, and you may just see an entire chain of events happening. This usually starts with your body beginning to get colder. Then you'll notice that your breathing is happening automatically. And then you'll begin to feel your body getting heavy, like a lead blanket's being rolled out over you, starting at your feet and working upwards. Your body's going to start to get extremely heavy feeling. If this happens, then you hold on to your self-awareness and wait until the feeling has covered your entire body, and then get up physically with no hesitation. And this brings us to the last and most important thing I want to say about this technique before we move on. You absolutely have to get up physically. When you reach the point where you think you've transitioned into your etheric body, you can't just think about it. You have to physically get up, sit up in your bed or get completely out of your bed, and then you'll see which body your consciousness actually has control over. This is really the make or break. I found in my experience when I first got started with this practice that this was the method that I was unfortunately overthinking a little bit too much. The transition from the physical body to the etheric body happens every night, and it happens on its own. Sometimes the sensations that accompany the transition are not extremely profound or pronounced. Sometimes we're just not aware enough to notice them. But the transition is happening. So you have to make sure that you're doing the last step, and that is getting up physically, even if you're not aware enough to recognize all of the signs along the way that the shift has happened. If you can get yourself to execute the final step and physically raise up, you will discover that this is one of the greatest techniques ever devised, because it's an expert at getting you into your etheric body. And once you master this, you will always have a way to get into your etheric body as long as you have a need to put your physical body down to sleep at night. So I'm going to leave you here with this for now. Thank you again so much for watching these videos. I'm really looking forward to being able to start doing these live events very soon. If you think you would be interested in watching a live event, there's two things I need to know from you. So either comment them or message me directly. First, what day works best for you, and what time and time zone you're in. I see that people are watching these from all over the place. Welcome. I'm here in the central United States, so I'd like to know what kind of schedule is going to work for the most people, and if we need to do several events maybe with different times. So thank you again for watching, and as always, good luck with your practice.